Hello, Ezekiel.
Hey,
How are
hello,
you?
Shahin. All good.
Good.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, amazing. So I wanted to talk a little about your work, and then I would have you sort of go through what it is that you do. How would you describe your art? But first, I'm going to start with a little intro on my thoughts about it. Okay. Like when I look at your art, I see it as a window into another world, like a place that could pass for Earth, but is just different enough that it engages the imagination. And so the rules that we're bound to, like time and gravity, don't necessarily exist in your creation. How would you best describe your art?
Thank you for this appreciation. It's kind of it's about that. I like to play a lot in the boundary of real and digital. What is real and what is not, what is design, what is art. So I like this room of doubts and exploration. So yes, I basically use CGI tools to create and explore different mediums as static imagery, films, and objects, spaces, and environmental design. Um, I would say it's pleasing, simple, subtle, dreamy, sometimes eruptive. I like that thing of, I don't know, stop, making a stop and thinking what is that story behind, what happened, what is that about, and make someone think about it. I think it's interesting that room of yeah, of doubt and question ourselves.
And it's sometimes so close to reality that it makes it a more enticing prospect for you to want that world to exist because it's almost possible, right?
Yeah.
You break a few rules, then you might get there. And so I think that's something that a lot of people feel directly, and that's why they connect to it so strong. Now, like, what sort of reactions do you like from people that see the work?
I would like to provoke something. I don't know what. Like if it's just to stop and appreciate that image or video or wherever just for a while. I think it's really important nowadays that we have a lot of inputs and attention and noise, visual noise, let's say too. And just if something makes you stop and at least like travel or think about something, I think it will be a lot to me. I don't know. I have some projects that are more eruptive, like with a stronger concept behind, like the revolt, for example, that it has like those objects that maybe they are hidden because they are ugly from a visual or aesthetic point of view, but they are functional at the same time. So in a context of a luxury house, they don't belong to, but they probably are useful there. So you will hit them, but why? So they're taking the control of the full house. So everything in a context of my world. I think I like that room of first to provoke something. I have some visuals or some videos or some pieces that they only are like a mind transportation, let's say.
Yeah. I think that revolt, you also had a part of it where you could experience it in virtual reality, right?
Yes.
So I had I think it was the Oculus that I set it up with, and um, I got to go in it finally because it was one of the first tries I had downloaded and I wasn't able to. But when I got it working, I was just like blown away by how immersive it can be, with these VR glasses. Like you really put a lot of time and thought into that experience because it wasn't just like something that you were passing in a video. You could turn and be in front of that object for a while, right? And what was going on. And another
Yeah.
interesting thing too was it wasn't just like a virtual reality display that you walk through and experience. It was also something that you can interact with, right? You were able to pick up some of the
Yeah.
um, objects that were around the sink and like maybe throw them, remove them.
Yeah. Take some tuppers, those food container, plastic food containers, and move to the shopping cart and place them inside. It was super fun. I love the result. What I find is now technology is not only a few of us could test it. We need a strong computer with a strong video card and the VR glasses with a cable connected to it. So I feel like we are in those early stages. What I am happy is that we could reach those results. I really want it for a project like that. I always say, if I am going to jump into some VR experience, I want it like as real as possible, and I think it was possible to do it. But now it will take time, and we will depend on the technology and evolution of it to make it like open for everyone. At that quality, at least.
I think that's why it's so great to see you developing like in these early days, sort of like bringing your work into areas that are still new and are still developing, and maybe not everybody can run a VR simulation on their computer and their VR headset, but you've done it. This is your art. You create because you want to create that, and you're pushing, and it's like this will help the evolution of those areas and help the development of it, because now we have requirements for higher equipment and settings and faster computers, so that we can get to a stage where you can like freely create. And I think that's where you're going to really shine, is that you've got this world where this reality shifted a little. Well, then you go into virtual reality, and it's like you can play with all the rules there.
Yeah. Yes.
Super exciting. So
yes, I like that, and I like to play with different mediums. I think I saw virtual reality as a different medium to play with. It was exciting because it was a new one for me, and as I also see real life now as a new medium to play with my works and my designs. So I think it's exciting. Sometimes stressful, but exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the connection between something that's so digital and within the computer, and then creating outside of it, and both of them being sort of like just as adventurous as the next. Even for myself, it's like sometimes I spend so much time home or in the computer that like if I'm able to go out to like a museum and see just paintings, it's almost like refreshing for me, because it's allowing me to get more grounded into the earth and the physical, and sort of like not neglect those things, because there is so beauty on both sides. So can you give us some insight into your process, like how you begin until the end?
Yes. Actually, everything starts from some idea. I find more inspiration, and a great source of ideas when I am in solitude, like walking around or doing some sports, like individual sport, like running or swimming or something like that. I found that it's been part of my life since I was born. In my early stages, I was practicing taekwondo since I was 4 years old until 25, because of my father. He's a taekwondo teacher, and he was introducing to me to that sport, so it was part of my life. I was competing and doing it professionally. So at some time in my life, I had a break where I didn't practice anymore anything. But when I moved to Barcelona, I felt like I needed something new. So I started by running, and I found that running was a good source of inspiration, because you are like doing some repetitive task for a long time. Then I say, okay, why not triathlon? Because I like swimming and bike riding. So yes, I found that as a main source of inspiration. Even many good ideas came in those moments where I was like escaping from my routine, like family, work, and everything, and I was alone with my head or my mind, and I found something. So everything started from there. Then I'm super curious, so I start to investigate about some topic or some visual references or visual works related to that idea or something like that. And since then, and after collecting some things, I started to jump into my canvas, the 3D world, let's say, or the 3D scene, and I start to play there. It's like a virtual blank canvas where you drop things, sometimes placeholder shapes or geometric shapes, and you start to play with and rotate and break and that. So I would say this is a good starting point because I find in that process sometimes mistakes or happy accidents, let's say, that could allows me to keep exploring on this. Yeah, sometimes I take a break, a few days, I come back to the same work. I see a new thing, something else to add. I like this kind of time, like a break time to process ideas unconsciously, and then come back to the work. So it's like a personal process sometimes. Everything, the idea and also the technical part of it. So because CGI, my work, it has a strong technical part on it. Like we can get some good idea. I share with my team. I am open to hear back some thoughts. We start to do it. Sometimes I open the scene and I say, okay, I found something here. I start to break everything. I come back and add something new. And I like this part of the evolution of the world. At the end, everything, it has kind of same style and same fingerprint that I really like.
So it's like you have this time that you spend in front of the computer, and then like during break time away from it, like a lot of stuff can sort of come together in your imagination because you're not really limited to the computer. You know, you just like move this, move that, or you see something and you're like, that's what I was.
Yes.
Like when you look at stuff, let's say you're driving and you see all these different objects, do you see them as like separate objects? Just because like in 3D modeling, it's like you bring in, or you make these assets and then you sort of like are able to compartmentalize them, you know, as different objects instead of a scene. Like, does that ever happen in looking at stuff where you're like in the matrix sort of?
Yeah. I like to have that and absorb it as a part of the creative process because it's really important. I really like it. It's important.
So you studied graphic design, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And then you moved into 3D animation.
Yes.
When I was in high school, I was just, you know, enamored with the computer and all the different tools that were coming out because it was a time where like there was a lot to play with on the computer, you know, like I had a little Wacom tablet, and so I did graphic design, but then I found myself like quickly also messing with 3D design because it was so like it had such a seductive appeal to it. Oh, I can do that. I can you know, send a sphere from outer space, and even video editing, like sort of blue screen. Like so it felt like those two things were connected. Was that the same for you?
Yeah, it's actually when I don't know. I think when I was a child, I loved to drawing. Now I don't have any drawing skills, but at that moment I love to draw and to represent some ideas and in my own words and trying to transform some character in different ways. I love that. I love that. And in high school, I was studying something related to computers. The high school degree was Informatica, which is computers. Basically, I understood and learned how to build computers, what each of the parts, and then a little bit of development and programming in different codes. Everything in a basic way, but I learned that. So after finishing high school, I said, okay, I need to pick a career for my life. But I was doing some research, and graphic design was really aligned to what I liked, because it had that kind of design side, but also related to computers and technology, because at the end you are playing with the software. When I started to learn about CGI, it was a self-taught thing. I started to investigate and say, okay, this allows me to represent my ideas in a realistic way. When I was studying, I needed to do some collages, photo collage in Photoshop, or even like a cutting and pasting in a canvas, and CGI opened a lot of doors to me. So I basically took this tool and translated a lot of concepts I learned in the career, in my university career, like composition and that. So all these steps, I was traveling. First was still images, like a small compositions, like a small set where I arrange things like it's a still life thing, and then I was getting more hardware power and being allowed to do more. So I said, okay, why not an interior? But this big cube, it's a wall, and this is the ceiling, and this is a floor. So I started to block a camera and to do a composition with the elements that they look as a space itself, because of the scale. And if you add a chair and you add some things, they give you a sense of a scale. So basically they started in that way, and then, well, okay, more hardware power, and then landscapes. So from a small scale to a landscape design, and then when it was connected to some commercial things like Microsoft wallpapers and those things. But it was a personal journey that it was like exploring different worlds, connected casually by scale, but in all of them using the graphic design and knowledge to create things that they look like okay or well in terms of compositing, and they look attractive in terms of color, with a good balance of lighting and visual hierarchy, but in different styles.
What was your biggest challenge transitioning from commercial art? Because I heard you mention, some work like now you have works that are more of a personal artistic expression.
I was doing a few commissions related to something I released, but then I got bored. I wanted something else. So I say no to the next ones and say, okay, I need my time to explore something else. So I took then my artistic time or personal time, because at that time some new ideas happened and I wanted to do something, but you are doing some commercial work that is taking full of your time. So I found that, okay, I need to stop. I need my time. So I was exploring something new, and after releasing it, again, the same thing. So it was a cycle every time. Where the artistic thing sometimes, well, most of the time were like the extra thing or the parallel thing. Mostly in the last year, where I found that the biggest campaign or more important projects that I wanted to also be part of it, because they came because of a personal reference of my work, of my art. They came because of it. So I needed to find a kind of balance. So this was the biggest challenge, to take the decision and say, okay, maybe this break time for artistic expression will be longer. But when I took that decision was when the NFT space arrived, because the technology suddenly allows us, because all the digital artists, to authenticate a digital artwork. So it was like at the same point where I tried to change the game. It's like, okay, now it's the opposite. I'm going to focus most of my time in my art, in my ideas, in my thing, and then some commercial like proposals or commercial art or commissioned art would be the side thing or the parallel thing or the extra thing. The most important thing from now is going to be the personal artistic expression of art.
The artistic expression is something that the personal artistic expression is something that you've been exploring this whole time while you're working commercial. I mean, that's what's really allowed you to evolve and develop as an artist. And I think that's why now when you're creating these works, they are so strong, because it's not just, oh, you just transition. It was like a career-long process of you getting to now.
Yeah, but it took time to realize that. It was at that moment I was before the NFT space, the NFT, the technology that arrived. I found it like as a way of expression that I needed because of myself. It's like I need this that gives me some income to live, to pay my expenses, to invest even in a, like a more ambitious projects, personal projects, because that artistic time is more about the investment of that money that I could earn before in the commercial like work. So it was like a cycle, but at that moment it's what it is, and it's what I like to, because I didn't want to be like a commercial guy or a studio, like where you need like a big structure to work for clients and more like salaries and things, more projects you need to take to pay more expenses. And so I wanted my artistic room for expression, and so I was always in the middle, but I found it as my fingerprint. But yeah, I didn't realize about it. It was like it's just because of that. But then with the technology, I think it made me think about it, and it was clear that to realize that all the things I've been doing in as an expression, a personal expression, that they were a lot in all these years, they are like my art, you know. It's like it's my thing, my expression. So yeah, was good, was a good like bath of reality.
NFTs sort of allowed you to now spend a little bit more time here and explore that. And I think ultimately it'll also lead to more adventurous work, you know, like and sort of like how would you display your works? You know, like you create an installation and then experimenting with physical and digital. Now, what's like your dream exhibition? You know, if you could sort of have a museum show right now, like how would you set that up, and how would you deal with displays?
This is, I think, is my main focus right now. I think displays, exhibitions, installations, artistic installation as a digital artist. It's something that it's happening now, and well, it happened in the past too. But for me, it's like something that it's happening now, and I think we need as an artist or digital artist, we need to not only create the digital artwork that will be displayed in screens, that this is another topic, but also in a physical space, because yeah, it could be in some screen that you can appreciate in your laptop, this will be the simplest one, but could be like in a museum or in a gallery, that this will be my an immersive installation is my dream, like my dream exhibition or presentation, I would say. I am so curious about the screens, the formats, how to deal with, how to prepare this and create this digital artwork as part of a context, that this context, it has like a room, and how this room would be, how the sizes, how we can like transform this space for it. So I think I think in this exhibition installations as a huge thing. But what I'm seeing is like screens or displays are still like evolving step by step, and they attach to a technological evolution. We are all used to see the rectangle format of a TV displaying any artwork there, like a cropping or stretching or whatever. And I think this is not not good, but it's because what we have. But suddenly, like more formats are appearing, like a squared or even 4:3 form aspect ratio and many others. But and yes, huge screens and rooms, more things are happening. But I'm curious about the formats. Yeah, to play with it, with the shape of it, like why not? It's a different format, circular, rhombus, I don't know, any other format that is not what we all know.
You did an installation at Art Basel that was really interesting, you know, and it was sort of like circular portal with the screen, and it worked so well. Like I mean, I love the way that the room was created, but it's that work in particular, I thought like, well, what a unique way to display the art and have the art interact with sort of like the shape of the wall, you know, that circular portal that was open with like this digital item, which is in the digital, is interacting with this physical object, and they're having a little play.
Yeah, it
But
was so it was amazing.
oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't do
No,
what I
I
needed
was
to
just
do.
asking, like, if you see yourself playing with this more in the future.
Yes, it was a super fun project because in that project in Art Basel, I was in charge of creating the full space. So in most of them, all the pieces were like to do a kind of exhibition of physical exploration, like those furniture collectibles, and also taking full control of the space, but also digital, because at the beginning I wasn't allowed to add like many screens, so I was limited on that. And then yeah, after they saw the renders, they said, oh, why not? And so that was amazing. So there were some area that where I say, okay, this is a circle, because I'm exploring a lot about that shape, and I will create a piece for that will fit on it. So starting from that point was amazing, because I took the format or the shape itself as the main character. So this allowed me to sometimes have a full circle with playing with shapes and that, and sometimes it's a small one that if you see a shadow that it's also linked to the color of the space, you will see that this circle is floating, but sometimes it's rolling through the edge of the circle. And so itself, the format allowed me to play a lot with it. This is related to the previous question. It's where I am looking for. It's to explore more about those situations that are playing in between the digital but also physical, because the physical format is allowing you and also limiting you to do some things.
I think seeing that room, it's clear that your work and that portal and what was going on in digital was so strong that it was like setting the tone of that room. You know, you're pulling colors from the room, sure, but it was the central focus. It was the get people into the room. I mean, if you're walking by something like that and you're inside, you know, a structure and there's not any windows, it's just a bunch of booths, right? And then you walk by that and you're like, what the, like, am I looking outside? Or, and then just the shape of the circle, you know, we're so sort of jaded by rectangles. Like a rectangle is not a window anymore, it's a screen, all right? I don't believe
Yeah.
you. But when it's
Yeah.
circular, it's like, it's adventurous. You know, you think of like submarines, you think of all this stuff that's just like, not your day-to-day items. Like I don't have a circular window in my house, you know, I don't live in a boat, but that's really cool. And so, you know, collectors having the opportunity to bring something like that into their home where it's like, there's no circular windows, but you walk into like, you know, come in this room. You walk in and they're like, what the hell is that? That's like another world right on your wall. And I think like I love that relationship between the physical and the digital. It's what really gets me excited because I'm like, all right, I've been in the physical world, like I've seen everything. Like I know like there's like great stuff that you can put around you to sort of help with what you feel and the mood that you're in. But digital has like such a vast capability to create items and moods and colors that it's exciting that we're at such an early stage. And I know that as time passes, as technology evolves, we'll be able to see some great interplay between the physical and the digital.
Absolutely, and I think is where in this early stage is where we have all the advantage of to play with. Is in this transition from the physical world, physical art, traditional art to the digital one. And I think in this transition, we have to play with both worlds, and we need to show to the world different ways of this merge. So this one was a successful like attempt to do it, playing with the physical and the digital world together to show something different.
I want to talk about so you were a well-known digital artist before NFTs. And so what would you say some of the most common misconceptions are about digital artists, especially those who have, you know, moved into NFT space?
The misconception is to see the digital, the NFT space as a commercial or like a commercial thing. It's like okay, this is something that could allows me to get some money. I will do something related. I will jump in, and the message behind the story behind everything behind it's sometimes like missed. And so I think this will be the main misconception between the digital art and the NFT space. I think those that they were doing a long career in the digital art world by themselves, allowing them a big room to play with and to do experimental and artistic works for themselves with the correct and collaborations and doing it well for a long time are those that the space allow them to get in easier. For example, Beeple is the main case that he was doing something for 13, 14 years, like just because he loved what he was doing. And suddenly this space arrived where that allowed him to authenticate some of those works. And I think this allowed him to also see that his work, it has like some value. Let's say it's not like something that I will do, just I will publish because I like my art and I show to the world. It's some likes in return on something in return. I will share everything, but suddenly some people would like to have that and collect that unique piece. I remember last year was like a boom of all the 3D artists, the newest and all of them, and even Illustrator, everyone were trying to see, okay, this is NFT, this is money, because the media was saying unconnected the NFT technology as money and as a big thing. So artists, digital artists, yeah, other words like collectibles and many things were jumped into the one word. And I think the money thing was the big word around it. So I think this could be the misconception, and it's not the artist. The artist story and the artist message behind.
We typically celebrate, artists, musicians, athletes, like having success and being able to make a living. And I think with art, what's really interesting is that now you can experiment further, you can try new things, and it's to me, like, that's my favorite part about collecting, is that I'm giving, some opportunity for the artist to play outside of that commercial world, and to see what can be made when they really apply themselves to creating art that is personal to them, that comes from within them. And I think as time goes on, when we see more digital artists exploring that side of their art, some tremendous things will come of it. And the people who maybe say that I'm not into it might find themselves falling into it, because now it's more something that they're thinking about, maybe some of the same stuff that we are, like, as a viewer, and so we connect to it. Whereas if it's just commercial product, we put it in the bin of, like, well, it's not art, it's design, so it's whatever it is. I'm not going to think about it that deep, But if we have people focusing in on art as art, digital art as just art, they'll start to see the things that maybe they missed, and all the beauty within it, and the power that actually has always existed in digital works.
Absolutely.
Who were some of the artists that have inspired you?
The artist that inspires me the most are those that it has a surreal touch. I would say the surrealism art movement inspired to me a lot. When I was studying graphic design, I had one of a signature that was story of art, and at that moment, surrealism was amazing, because I was like in a timeline exploring different movements, and the surrealism was like a completely different way of thinking of the rest of the previous generation. So I think Magritte, Dali, Man Ray, Jean Art, I think all of them, they were able to connect different worlds into something new. And I really feel like it's connected to my way of working with my tools, the CGI and 3D. I am able to connect like a shape that I create with a texture from another world that has been never connected to create something new. And I really feel like this way of thinking in different stages and timeline, it's a big source of inspiration. But especially Magritte, I think he had an outstanding aesthetic sensibility. It's like the way those visuals and those connections were shown. It's like something that it's beautiful to see, and like him, many others. But yeah, I would say that the main inspiration comes mainly from their mindsets at that time, and now with different tools in a different era and completely different words. But this soul of connecting things from different worlds. It's part of my everyday work.
Speaking of inspiration, how do you choose the colors in your work?
I don't know. This is a good question. Sometimes it's influenced by things I am watching every day, like unconsciously every time. Like I'm watching different art or like design areas like fashion design, architecture, interior design. I don't know. I love design in all their sides, and sometimes I am absorbing some tendencies. I would say unconsciously maybe, but a, I really liked to create or to choose like a realistic colors, I would say. And I love those like desaturated colors or more pastel or sometimes. But I am lately super focused on like the saturated colors, that those that are like in in a in the same room and mood, and they are all contaminated by the same lighting, that the lighting is tinting everything with kind of touch. So I like this like homogeneous touch of colors. I would say like pastel colors were my favorite for many years, and it was a strong fingerprint of 6 and 5 work. But lately, I am super influenced of those photographers I really love. That I like the way they capture the way the reality in a way I like, and this inspired me to also add this touch of realism that I am always trying to add to my work, because it's part of this exploration, that it's something that has been designed but with the realistic layer that allows you to confuse, but to also want the wish to be there.
There's a sense of calm in the work. It's really, sometimes it's hypnotic, and it beckons you to sort of focus on certain objects, and with these like later works where you've had, for example, the sphere animated. I find those really interesting because it's a moving object. However, your eyes never lose focus of it, and there's so much transitioning that's happening with that object. Like a story is being told as this object being the main character, right? And before you know it, there's been on loop, but you're still fixated on that sphere. And so it's just interesting how your work is able to play with time in that aspect of how you're looking at art and getting lost in it. Is there anything that that you're thinking of with respect to time and objects?
I know sometimes it's hard to understand if it's the sun of the moon, but I like that confusion, and I like to bring the sun or the moon in a landscape and place it like as an object that we can touch and see closely. But yeah, it's really connected to the time, because the sun is most focused to the day, and the moon is more in the night. But at the same time, you can have a sphere depending on the way you illuminate it, or the texture you give. It's the sun or it's the moon, but it's none of them, So I like that, and also the time that is part of my name of the studio, that the 6 and 5 name came from the 6 and 5 p.m. That after that time, when I was working in different studios in Argentina, I finished my day work at 6 p.m. and 5 minutes later I was on my way back to home, and I wanted to do my stuff. And yeah, it was the best excuse to represent like that free time, or that time of exploration and art expression. So the time is always there, and lately in the last years it's linked to the sun and the moon and the time lapse too, because I did some pieces in time lapse, the tonal way that we were talking a lot and you helped me a lot, and it's like also talking about time, that some you see an empty chair, you see a dinner, or maybe it's a lunch that it's already set and you are waiting for someone, but the time is passing by, but the other person never arrives. So it's connected somehow. But in that in that particular piece, the circular one, it's about that. The sun that has been brought in a physical shape, playing with colors and lightings and textures, to confuse also if it's sun or if it's moon. So yeah, everything in an hypnotic, like trying to give an hypnotic feeling, like that you wanted to look.
Yeah, it's quite soothing, even though there's so much going on and things are transforming, right? It's like entering into a building and the windows are changing or whatnot. There's a lot of morphing, but it's so subtle and natural, because you still play a lot with what's real and what's not, that it's just happening right before you, and it keeps you sort of like transfixed on the object itself. So, and then Internal Weight was a work that was a dinner table, and there was a seat on the other side that was empty, and so you're waiting for somebody to come and join you for this dinner. And it goes through a sort of it goes through a time lapse depending on what time it is of the day. Was it through the seasons or just the time?
It was just the time. It's 24 hours, like every hour changing the lighting and the mood. And one of the candles was at night was on, and like I don't know in English, but it was like the fire. Yeah. We saw the fire, but then in the day the fire got gone. So it's connected to. It was a small gesture to have that connection, and also the point of view that it's like a first person point of view, that you are seeing the other side of the table with the empty chair. And so with an environment as a landscape, that it could be like a romantic meeting, or maybe not, maybe it's a familiar one with someone you love. And I think those things were really nice. And I was also a good way to take the NFT technology and to play with, because suddenly NFT appeared and allows you to not have like a static artwork, as a sculpture, as a painting. You can play with different factors, like timing or the time of the day. So this was really interesting, and because it was also taken as a part of the creation.
Yes, there's sort of like interplay between the screen, where you have like time changing, and also the time changing, like outside, the real world. They could sometimes be at odds, or they could be identical, and I think that's a fun thing to sort of play with, because your work has this like strong sense of reality. I think especially in that work, it was kept quite real, so that it would look like there's like oh, I'm busy on the computer right now. I'll join you for dinner later. It's like right on your wall, and you're like, oh shoot, I'm late here, and you just jump in, and you're like, let's eat. I've arrived finally. The conclusion of Eternal Weight.
Yeah.
So like, having done NFTs, is there a way that your work has changed? And also, are there any like artists who have influenced your work in the NFT space?
I would say it's still the same. What it changed was my mindset. Is like the way of I am taking those projects and the priority I gave to them. Is like okay, those ideas or this amount of ideas I always always came to my mind that most of the time I say, okay, no, I can't do it because I'm doing something else for a client or for someone else. Or sometimes I say, okay, I need to do this one because this one was super strong and it was like a part of my current life. But I needed to force myself, my time, everything to make those happen. So what it changed it was mostly like the way of working. Say, okay, this is my current state. I am an artist. I am doing. I will do my personal projects and all those things. The other things, the proposals and commercial proposals, can wait or can we can find some time to do it if it's necessary. So I think this is the main thing that changed. But yeah, I think in my way of working, every time I was trying to try something new, I get bored of what I was doing like a year ago. So I want something new. To do those things, you need like time and also invest because there are some people that are specialists in some new things that are happening related to tech, related to other worlds, so like I don't know, developing or in artificial intelligence, let's say. So I need to find ways to make those happen, but it's my main priority and it's what I find 100% of my time now to do that. So basically the NFT space gave me like the possibility to do that, and yeah, it's what is it was the side that changed in my work days.
Well, I'm really excited to see your next work, and thank you so much for speaking to me, Ezequiel. I learned a
Thank you,
lot.
man.
I mean, I studied a lot about your work after I collected it, but I think like having a conversation with the artist is refreshing because you get a more personal sort of response to your questions, no matter what's out there in articles. I find that like having a conversation with artists is the best way to sort of become familiar with their art in a way that, you know, it's not just my own interpretation of it. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing your work.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, for being always there. You were one of the earliest one when I jumped in. I was learning about the many things at that time, like tech, art, different things that this space gave to me. So you were there, and you are still there, like anytime. And yes, always. You are one of those that collectors and also friends that helped me to grow up, and without you wouldn't be the same. So I appreciate a lot this opportunity, and every time you are there for anything I ask you or I want your thoughts. Thank you.
I'm happy to. I mean, I'm really it's been a pleasure watching, you know, your evolution as an artist. Um, some of your some of your newest work is it's quite amazing. So I will say again that I'm excited to see what's next, and I'm excited to stay along for this adventure of, you know, being your collector and following your journey through art.